Chapter 2. Test of Faith. I was about 70 years old when it all started, Job says. 70? You look like 30, I reply. I look at past Job and take in his features, noticing the roughness around his wrinkles. He looks less sun-damaged and more like he has just thoroughly enjoyed smiling as much as possible in his life. Maybe. Well, the way we aged during this time was much different than what you are familiar with. While your generations live only to 100, if you even make it that far, mine all lived to be nearly 200 years old, and we saw multiple generations after us before death. Wow, Job laughs. There will be time for me to answer some questions that you may have, but for now, we observe. We walk closer to the house. At the same time, past Job greets a woman whose hair is a deep shade of red, with a kiss. They embrace each other lovingly. She is followed by 3 girls who are nearly identical to her, and 7 boys who closely resemble Job. His wife and their children, I guess, based on their appearances alone. They all look so happy to be spending time with each other. My love, welcome home, past Job says to his wife. How are the animals today? The crops? The children? The same as usual, dear, prosperous and healthy, she smiles. And I've gathered all of our children from their work in the fields to say goodbye before they all enjoy an evening at our eldest's home. Of course, always, past Job says, beaming at his children. He kisses each of the 10 on the cheek and hugs them tightly. A wonderful surprise every time they come to help us care for our land. Come in for dinner, my children. I'll inform the servants of your extended stay. Thank you, Father, but as Mother just said, we are parting soon, says one of the girls. You must join us for dinner tomorrow night. We're planning a celebration of the bountiful season with a small gathering. I'd never miss it. Each of their kids give their parents a hug and kiss, then slowly make their way off the porch. Past Job and his wife are left alone to watch as their children disappear in the distance and travel down the long dirt road until they are completely out of sight. Then the couple enter the cottage, arms draped around one another. They're talking, but we're way too far away that I can't hear anything that they're saying, though they seem so excited about whatever they're sharing with each other. They both wear large smiles that take up so much space on their cheeks, it'd be impossible to miss. Should we follow them? I ask Job. Yes, he nods. After you. This may be a stupid question, but are they going to see us come in? No. We're sort of like ghosts right now, Job answers, and that's not a stupid question. Very much so a valid concern, since this is your first time visiting the past. We begin moving across the large yard, the bright green grass being softly pressed down beneath our feet, to the stairs that appear to be well loved. They look so worn down from use, and I worry they might creak beneath our weight, but surprisingly they make no noise. They don't even move as we walk up onto the porch. The door is slightly ajar, enough for us to pass through it with ease, although I'm not entirely sure anyone would notice if we touched it at all. I'm so curious to know how that works. It's cozy and small, designed with simple wooden furniture, complete with end tables, a few shelves that have been attached to the wall, a chest of drawers, and something that vaguely resembles a guitar. The front room has many seating options, presumably for the large number of children we just watched leave. Through a small archway across the room was the kitchen and dining room, once again with a dozen chairs around one large round table. Past Job and his wife are standing side by side on the back wall. Ghosts? Really? I ask, still absorbing my surrounding. Ghosts are real? Awesome, Dominic beams. Of course they're real, and they normally only show up when they're doing stuff like what we're doing right now, Job says. So are hauntings real too? Only if they choose to haunt, Job answers. Now shush and listen, please. Ghosts from the future! Dominic jabs me in the ribs. I reply by smacking him on the arm, and he feigns a look of hurt. Jerk? You'll live, I say. He cocks his head at me, trying to resist a smile. Sorry, poor choice of words. What have you prepared for tonight's meal? Past Job asks one of the servants standing in the kitchen. It smells irresistible. We walk through the archway and seat ourselves at the table, still making no noise. I can't say that's something I'll ever get used to, though it would do well to have this pseudo-superpower when I come back to life. Not for anything malicious, I just think sometimes it might be nice to go unnoticed like this for a little while. Lamb and potatoes, sir, with some mixed greens as well, the servant answers. Delightful. We shall have our dinner now, if it is finished. Of course, sir, right away. The servant scurries off and out of the room, another following closely behind him, and I hear them gathering the dishes and utensils to set the table, everything rattling noisily as they bang against one another. All the clinking makes me cringe. Past Job and his wife join us at the table without noticing our presence. One of the perks of our ghost-like state, I assume. It remains quiet while they wait for their dinner, save for the sound of clinking dishes and whispers about the state of the crops and weather every so often. Sir? Ma'am? The first servant appears at the archway carrying 2 plates filled to the brim with steaming broccoli, mashed potatoes, and lamb. He sets them in front of the couple, then quickly hurries out of the room again. This looks absolutely delightful, Past Job says. His wife nods in agreement and offers her hand to Job. Shall we? Yes. Let us pray. Past Job grabs his wife's hand and she nods again. They both bow their heads and shut their eyes tightly. Lord, thank you for this day and for providing us another day with good food and our loving family. Bless the hands that prepared this food and our bodies as we eat it. Keep watch over our sons and daughters and forgive them of their— Sir! Another servant throws the front door open and runs into the dining room, preventing Past Job from finishing his prayer. The servant is covered in glistening sweat, his robe drenched. He has his hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles have turned white. What's this? Job's wife cries in surprise. Please, forgive me for the intrusion, he says. His eyes are wild and he starts sweating even more. Job, your oxen, your donkeys, they've been stolen by the Sabians. What? Past Job's eyes grow wide and he begins to stand in his seat. We tried to stop them. The servant starts crying, his voice growing louder on the verge of wailing. But they came armed with swords. Everyone was killed. I was the only one to escape and came to tell you. No! Job's wife cries out again. She bangs her hands on the table angrily. Sit, child, Past Job says, resisting the panic creeping into his tone, pulling out the chair beside him. Tell me what happened. Tell me everything you saw. Before the servant has a chance to answer, another runs through the open door. He is also panting and sweating, terror in his furrowed eyebrows, just like the first. Everyone is staring at him, speechless. Fire! A fire came down, out of nowhere, he shouts. It burned the fields, the sheep, and everyone tending to them. I had just been returning from gathering the feed when it happened. No others survived. You saw all of this? Past Job asks. Yes, he answers, still shouting, unable to gain control of his volume. What is happening? Job says, mostly under his breath. Then to the room he demands, If anybody knows what is going on, tell me now. Job! A third servant yells from the front door. I hear him thump into a wall and brush himself off nervously. He runs into the dining room. It's getting very crowded with everyone who keeps rushing in, and the room starts heating up. The Chaldeans. They stole the camels. We were no match. They killed everyone. I alone survived to tell you, though I come now with a wound on my back. He turns to show the room a horrific gash that is at minimum 3 inches wide, spreading from his shoulder blades diagonally to his lower back. Dominic gags beside me. The servant drops his robe to cover himself again, and promptly faints. We're under attack. Past Job gets out of his chair and starts pacing the floor. What do we do in this situation? How do we proceed? Everyone, the servants from the kitchen and Job's wife and the others who had come from outside to deliver news, start chattering frantically among themselves. A few are sobbing uncontrollably, no doubt in mourning of their friends who were killed. Some are bumping into each other, trying to find a way out of the overcrowded dining room. A fourth servant slowly walks into the room. It takes a few moments, but once his presence is known, the chatter comes to a halt. All eyes fall on him. His eyes are puffy, and his cheeks are bright red. He's been crying. Job, he chokes, I come with horrible news. What's left for us to lose? Job's wife asks from across the room. We've already lost everything. Our animals, our crops, our servants. There's no more for them to take. Past Job and the servant lock eyes. I can see the way Past Job's face falls slowly that this one glance is lasting a lifetime in his mind. He straightens his spine, seeming to understand without it being said. He lets out a shaky breath, and he shakes his head. No. What? What is it? She asks again. The children, Past Job whispers, still looking at the servant. It's the children, isn't it? What did you say? Her voice trembles. She directs her attention from past Job to the man standing beside him. "Child, tell me what you said." "There is nothing that could have been done," the servant says finally, his voice very soft. "A powerful wind swept through. I don't know what it was, or from where it came. It destroyed their house, crushing them inside. I am so sorry." Job's wife screams, piercing all of our ears, bouncing off the walls. Horror shrouds her face and she screams again. Instinctively, I jam my fingers into my ears in case she chooses to make that sound again. All of the servants fall into one another and cry loudly. Past Job is still standing, alone now, unmoving. After pondering his next move, emotion lacking from his expression, he exits the room. Job snatches my hand and pulls me from my seat, not quite as delicately as he had been when we first arrived here. Dominic follows us close in tow, choosing not to grab onto me or Job, probably with good reason. He can probably see how much Job is dragging me to keep up with his past self. Job walks through the living room and into a hallway. There's a rickety staircase that he climbs up. The upstairs only has 2 rooms. He enters one, a bathroom, and immediately begins stripping off his robes. We stand in the hallway watching him. Finally, Job lets go of me. Past Job begins searching all the cabinets, ripping them open without caring whether or not they may be pulled from the walls. Eventually, he finds what he's been looking for: a knife. Dominic shudders when he sees this and gulps. I gasp and look at Job next to me, but he doesn't acknowledge me and only has his eyes trained on past Job, who begins slashing the robe and cutting the strands of his hair until there's nothing left except for a few patchy splotches of brown hair. "I entered this world naked," past Job cries to himself. I watch Job whispering along with himself, each syllable wavering, but he remembers all of it, word for word. My heart jolts beneath my chest. Naked I will leave this life. The Lord has given me protection and has taken all away. He does as he pleases. A hand touches mine. I can tell from how both tough and delicate it feels around mine that it's Job's, and darkness swells around us. I gasp again as the scene around us drops completely, and we're left in an empty black void. It's exactly like the white nothingness that I woke up in, the only difference now being that I can't see Job or Dominic. "Don't be afraid," I hear Job say to me. I can't see him. I don't think his hand is holding mine anymore, but his voice sounds close. We are simply moving in time. More happened when I woke up the next day. In between is just a lot of weeping and cursing, mostly from my wife. She was quite the tigress, that one. The house appears around us again, filling the darkness delicately with a hazy yellow light. We are still in the bathroom, but past Job is no longer there. The shreds of his robe and pieces of his hair have been cleaned, but the knife is still dangling on the counter. We walk away, and Job leads us towards the other room upstairs. There's a bed and 2 end tables on either side of it, and a small dresser on the opposite side of the bed. Past Job and his wife sleep soundly. This must be the master bedroom. I notice something on past Job's face. It's more than just something, actually. He's covered in bright red bumps, some bloody, some purple like they've been bruised, but all of them look painful just from the size alone. Dominic shudders and looks away. "What is all that?" I ask. "All over your skin." "A plague," Job replies. Right now it is the morning immediately after everything happened. My wife and I went to bed fairly early. We were both exhausted from trying to understand what was going on, and sent our servants away because it was too much to hear their grief over and over while experiencing it ourselves. Then on this morning, I woke up infected with boils from head to toe. I spent the entire day using broken clay trying to scrape it all away. "Did it work?" Dominic asks. "The clay? What are clay pots made out of anyway?" My mouth drops open a bit and I squint at my brother. "Is that a serious question?" Yes. Do you even know?" "Clay pots are made out of clay, Dominic." "Huh." He ponders this for a moment. "I guess I knew that already." "Imagine that." "To answer your first question, Dominic," Job clears his throat. "No. Scratching myself with the broken clay didn't benefit me whatsoever. It just scarred my body that much more. Much bloodier than how I look laying there." Dominic shudders a second time. "Sounds not good." "Not good. That's one way to put it. Come now, this is all I wanted you to see at this time, and there's one final interaction that's just between my wife and me that you need to witness before we can continue." Job grabs my hand, then Dominic's, and again the world around us fades away. The darkness feels physically tense right now, almost like we're actually just trapped in a thick cloud of fog in the dead of night. I wish I could see Job, or Dominic. It's so unsettling having to just wait like this. Finally, light streams back into our sight. We are standing in the dining room again. Past Job and his wife are seated at the table in the same spots from earlier, but now they are clearly in the middle of a heated argument. The veins in her neck are protruding, and his face is as red as a strawberry that's way past ripe. We sit down at the table and listen. "You are cursed, Job," his wife spits at him. "How can you stand there and tell God he is good when he is spilling blood all over your life?" "God is good. He will provide for us again," Past Job answers, ignoring his wife's taunts. "How can you be so dull? Look around us. We have lost everything but the roof over our heads, as if that can be enough." "It is enough, my wife. It will be enough for now. How do you cling to your integrity? God will provide. Tell your precious God to end my suffering. Have him take you and end yours as well," she rages. "I can't endure any more. How can you?" "I should just die then, is that it? Then you can be happy once more, without me?" She leans in closely to him, lowering her voice. "If your God is so merciful, he will kill you and save you from more pain." "Bite your tongue," Past Job warns. "Bite yours," she taunts, throwing her chair back, and walks out of the room. She slams the door angrily behind her as she departs, and all is quiet in the house. Likely for the first time in a while for them, given the amount of kids and servants they have. Past Job weeps silently at the table, his head in his hands now. I look out one of the windows. There's nobody around, not even outside. With land this size, it's hard to believe that there's not one person working on the farm, or standing behind a wall trying to eavesdrop. Though Job's wife had so much fire coming out of her ears, I can't say I blame everyone for keeping as much distance as possible. Job snatches our hands again, and everything disappears abruptly, giving neither me nor Dominic any time to react. I'm less surprised this time by the lack of surroundings, but I still wish there was even the smallest hint of light. I've never really hated the dark, never even been scared of it, but it's also never been quite like this. "She told you to kill yourself? Your own wife?" I ask. "Not quite," Job responds. "She told me to tell God to kill me." "That's rough, buddy," Dominic says. "I'm not sure I'd be able to handle something like that very well," I confess. "Being told to kill yourself, having God orchestrate it for you, I can't believe it." "Truthfully, neither can I," Job says sadly. "But her leaving caused a massive rift in my life, even bigger than losing my land, my animals, and my kids. Not the fact that she left me, but because she told the whole village I was cursed by God, and they isolated me completely." "That's terrible," I say. My brow furrows. "Just terrible." Terrible is an understatement. I spent the following few days begging God on my hands and knees to show me his light again, but I was silenced by him with loneliness. My own servants didn't speak to me. They just did their chores and prepared my meals, but they never looked at me or spoke to me. Nothing at all. It was so quiet. I'm so sorry. Once word had gotten out what happened to me, 3 of my friends showed up at my cottage to speak to me. Job continues. He snaps his fingers and a tiny ball of light lingers between us. As thankful as I am for the gift of sight again, I notice he looks deep in thought, his brows furrowed deeply. Wrinkles are forced into his forehead, leading me to believe he didn't even register that I had said anything at all. Not that I could blame him, after knowing what he's had to relive. If I were him, I don't know how closely I'd be willing to listen either. "Your friends? Is that what we're going to see now?" Dominic asks. Job taps his fingers together and closes his eyes, nodding ever so slightly. "Yes," he snaps again. End of chapter 3.